With the rise of the internet age, streamers have become some of the most popular entertainers of modern times. Their live streams generate thousands of accumulated watch hours across various platforms like Twitch, Kick, and TikTok, and attract a large fan base of impressionable viewers. On one hand, this can certainly be a good thing, as some streamers are able to generate a substantial amount of income for themselves doing a profession that was previously unheard of. However, some of these streamers use their platform in a way that is far more destructive than good. Studies have shown that with young men, there has been an uptick in misogynistic attitudes towards women, higher rates of depression and suicide, as well as lower empathy and communication skills, and difficulty in forming and sustaining relationships. A large part of this is due to the radicalization and toxic online communities. Young men these days are suffering from what is being called a loneliness epidemic, and thus flock to these online forums to feel a sense of community. While the sentiment is understandable, the execution leaves much to be desired, and some of these streamers often leave young men feeling more embittered at the world and more reliant on that online community. With the advent of YouTube, viewers flock to watch their favorite content creators, play video games, or simply enjoy the various forms of content that was plentiful on the platform. Creators like iDubbbz, PewDiePie, and Leafy all blew up and gained substantial audiences. However, beneath their ascension, slowly but surely, a darker subculture was growing. One thing that you'll find will be a common thread between online content creators is the fact that they are not held to the same traditional expectations as other entertainers. More public entertainers such as actors, musicians, or athletes are more likely to be held accountable in the event that they do or say something wrong. Often, they will receive waves of public backlash, face the potential of being stripped of brand deals and partnerships, or met with the dreaded cancel culture. However, just like in the case of the aforementioned burgeoning YouTube stars, who at one point or another faced accusations of racism, homophobia, or misogyny, entertainers whose audience primarily exists online can skirt away from the online backlash and return back to their niche relatively unscathed. I personally believe that this ties back to the fact that during the mid-21st century, as society was becoming more progressive and tolerant as a whole, with the Black Lives Matter movement, the legalization of gay marriage, and feminism's modern form, straight white males began seeing themselves as the marginalized class. They felt their position in America was being threatened by the rise of progressive social movements. Thusly, they found a shared community with online forums, comment sections, and most importantly, vicariously through content creators who validate their most negative sentiments. They then feel a need to protect and provide continuous support to their favorite creators, same way members of a community rally behind a neighbor who is falling on hard times. This makes this specific type of entertainer relatively immune to accountability, and is further encouraged by an audience that often reflect and embody the same negative values that are propagated by the same content creators. A major figure in streaming who is a primary example of this is Adin, who has become a major face in the online alt-right movement. Adin initially debuted as a YouTuber where he made content based around gaming, specifically NBA 2K. And even did a stream with LeBron James' son, Bronny, where LeBron himself would even pop in on occasion. After expressing discontent with his life after his pivot to Twitch, he began following the teachings of media personality Andrew Tate, whose philosophies we will delve more into later. But the most important thing to know about Tate is that he presents himself as a lifestyle guru for impressionable young men like Adin to emulate. Ross then takes the philosophies he adopted from Tate and then relays them to his own easily impressionable audience. Ross himself has used his fame to platform both people and ideologies that will cause his young audience to delve deeper in a well of bigotry. He has platformed neo-Nazi Nick Fuentes, aired a live stream advocating for the election of Donald Trump, which Trump appeared for himself, and exposed Tate to a wider base of viewers. An event which ended by Ross sniffing Tate's chair after he had gotten up. Ross has also parroted right-wing ideology by on several occasions making racist, misogynistic, and homophobic statements. After a clip of TDE rapper Doechii went viral, Ross added to the hate train further by saying,
"Don't get me started on that bit. Fuck Doechii, the umbrella clip pissed me off. What an entitled, unintelligent piece of shit she is, bro."
The manosphere in its current form is a relatively new concept within the content creation space. It has completely warped the perception of traditional masculinity in the eyes of boys like Adin. Now, more than ever, young boys are listening to figures in the manosphere, such as the aforementioned Andrew Tate and Adin Ross, but also others such as the duo behind the Fresh and Fit podcast, Jordan Peterson and streamer Sneeko, who all relay their definition on what it takes to be a man in modern day society. To understand exactly why young men are more reliant on internet role models that come from outside the home and present a toxic perspective on the duties that being a man entail, we can look to Robert Glover's book, No More Mr. Nice Guy. In Glover's analysis of the nice guy syndrome, he attributes the rise of approval-seeking, emotionally repressed men to significant social changes in the mid-20th century. Central to his argument is the idea that many boys growing up in the 1940s, 50s, and 60s lacked close, healthy relationships with their father. These fathers were often absent due to work, emotionally distant, or struggled with issues like addiction, rage, or infidelity. As a result, many boys made a conscious decision to become the opposite of their fathers, choosing to be passive, agreeable, and conflict avoidant in hopes of gaining love and validation, especially from women. With fathers largely unavailable, mothers were left to shape their sons into men. While well-meaning, mothers could not model masculine identity in a way boys could internalize. These sons, raised by women at home and then in the school system heavily dominated by female authority figures, learned early on that being accepted, this dynamic produced a generation of men who became comfortable having their masculinity defined by women, prioritizing being nice over being authentic or assertive. This historical context sheds light on why many young men today are drawn to figures like Andrew Tate and other voices within the manosphere. Feeling disconnected from strong male role models and frustrated by societal expectations that often label traditional masculinity as toxic, these young men find in Tate a hypermasculine alternative that promises power, control, wealth, and validation on their own terms. While Glover encourages emotional healing and developing an authentic sense of self, the manosphere exploits this same emotional vulnerability, offering instead a rigid, often toxic blueprint of what it means to be a man. In this way, the nice guy syndrome and the rise of Andrew Tate are two sides of the same coin, both shaped by fatherlessness, emotional confusion, and a crisis of masculine identity in modern culture. When I was growing up, I was a big fan of TV networks, specifically those designated for kids, such as Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network, and Disney Channel. A favorite being Disney. Disney often gets flack for the choice of television shows they choose to air. They are typically critiqued for prioritizing exaggerated, formulaic humor and shallow storylines. While this may be true, a common thread among these shows is at the end of the episode, the show will conclude with the characters learning some kind of valuable lesson. Although this lesson wasn't likely to carry over the next series of episodes, the audience extracted some value for themselves by seeing characters struggle with some conflict, deal with the fallout and consequences of said conflict, all woven neatly within a 22-minute time frame. As Gen X slowly starts removing themselves from in front of the TV screen and instead in front of their phone or computers, the understanding of conflict resolution, compromise, and consequences of one's actions are lost in favor of mindless entertainment with little to no value outside of setting off kids' dopamine receptors, making Gen X increasingly less likely to know how to handle conflict as they rise in age. This is further exacerbated by the amount of misinformation and toxicity passed down to them by their favorite streamers, harming them at this critical stage of development. As a society, we must collectively congregate to aid in the growth and development of our young counterparts, stepping up to be positive role models for our children, brothers, and relatives, showing them that there is more complex nuances to life than what they see on their phone. Only then can we combat the spread of toxic masculinity and ensure a world where the next generation can step up and be positive, contributing members of society.